if you're watching this, you're about to do an alternator on an 11 to I think like 14 Sonata. Just give you a quick rundown of what you got to do to get this off. There's a 17 millimeter right there. That pulley there is the tensioner, so get your 17 millimeter wrench because you're not going to get anything that fits in there. If you have a offset box wrench, be perfect. I don't have one, but I may do with a regular wrench. Loosen up your belt. There's two 14 millimeters that hold this alternator on, and the bottom 14 millimeter, the frame sits in a U, like open like this, so that bolt just sits and slides back down on there. So once you get it, you know, maybe a quarter of an inch out, it's going to be loose on the bottom. Once you get that loose, there is a connector right there. So if you try to pry on it, you're going to break the connector on that AC compressor. We don't want to turn an alternator job into an AC compressor job. So what you do, a little hack, there is a top bolt that runs on the compressor. You'll feel down on there's a machine surface that's flat right where my finger is. So look on your car right there. Put an extension there on top of it, and then you can use your pry bar right here, and that will push down on that extension and get the bottom half of the alternator out, because it pinches the bottom bolt, and it's a pain in the ass. Tools that are a must-have for this job is a 14 millimeter ratchet wrench. That bottom bolt, I had to use my breaker bar to get the bottom bolt loose. It was really a SOB, but then it was really tough the whole way through, so that's a must. So then the alternator, once you get it loose, there's the 12 millimeter on the back for the alternator power wire. Make sure you disconnected your battery first. And then there's an electrical connector, so you got that off. And then there's 3 10 millimeters, these two, and there's one down here that holds this in. And if you just gotta kind of push them off to the side, you don't really have to disconnect anything. You can pull the alternator out. It's a tight squeeze. You'll also need to loosen this 10 millimeter down here that holds these lines in place, because this top bolt won't want to come out. It's going to hit this line. Just loosen that up. You don't even got to take it all the way out. I just needed about, quarter of an inch. Bolt slides right out. New bolt slides in. But that also gives you a little bit more wiggle when you're trying to get the alternator in and out. When you put the new alternator in, start the bottom bolt. The bolt threads through down into here, so you start that new one on there so you don't have to worry about sliding it in. And then that bolt will sit down in that U that's on that mount. But fairly simple. I haven't got the belt back on, which I'm sure will be a real pain in the ass, but those are the tricks of doing this job. There's another like 6 or 8 minute video of a guy telling you got to take your engine mount off, you got to jack it up, you got to take the wheel off. Pretty easy to take 3 10 millimeter bolts off, loosen one 10 millimeter bolt, and just pull it out the top. Like I said, pretty hard to get that bottom bolt loose, or it's not loose, but it kind of gets corroded in there. And as you can see, that nut is able to slide in here. So this is going to put tension and squeeze against that lower mount. So that's really what's holding in there, is that pressure once that bolt's loose. So pry bar, but that's about it. Pretty straightforward job. I just made this video because I watched a 7-minute video that the guy was an idiot. So I hope this helps you. Hope you clicked on this 3.5 minute long video instead. As always, T-tops off.